One morning, Michael wakes up, does his breathing exercises, and waves a small white flag in front of the bathroom mirror. Michael gets dressed and orders his usual breakfast from a diner for delivery. Soon after, he opens the door to get his food and the day's paper. Later, Sarah, a supermodel, is surrounded by paparazzi and fans outside a restaurant. She gives them a brief moment of her time before catching a cab. She tells the driver, Michael, where she wants to go. He recognizes her, but she dismisses him as just another cab driver. Michael boasts that he's the kind of guy who would send 1,000 roses or travel across the world to see her smile. Sarah scoffs and says he's just looking to get his heart broken. Michael responds that he never falls in love, but Sarah insists that this time he will. When they arrive at Sarah's destination, Michael asks her out on a date. She smiles and says goodbye, leaving a hair tie in the back seat. That evening, Michael has dinner with his friends Sally and Robin. Sally, who wears glasses, invites them to her Episcopalian ordination that weekend, which is part of her senior thesis. Suddenly, Michael spots Sarah and rushes out of the restaurant. Sarah tells her friends she'll walk home rather than take the cab. During their walk, Sarah mentions she is getting married, but Michael says he doesn't mind waiting until she falls for him. Sarah hails another cab, saying their meeting was an accident and won't happen again, but Michael disagrees. The next day, Michael's friends are skeptical about his chance encounter with Sarah and her appearance at the restaurant. He tells them he doesn't have her phone number and doubts he'll see her again. The following day, Michael sees Sarah outside a women's correctional facility, watching inmates kiss their loved ones through the bars. She says she finds it fascinating. When Sarah gets in the cab, Michael asks her to sit in the front seat, and she agrees. At his apartment, he pins her against the fridge and kisses her. Overwhelmed, Sarah pushes him away and leaves. Later, Sarah hears her fax machine beep and finds a romantic poem from Michael. The next day, Sally scolds Robin for supporting Michael's affair with a married woman. Robin, distracted, is busy checking his voicemail for Sarah's response to his poem. When he finally hears her positive reply, he sees it as a sign to meet again. Later, Michael sneaks into a fashion show and watches Sarah walk the runway. She spots him in the audience, smiles, and gestures for him to come backstage. Although she only asked him out for tea, he takes her back to his apartment where they kiss as soon as they walk in. They both find the experience unsatisfying and agree it might be due to it being their first time together. Sarah tells him she'll never leave her home and hopes he understands. Michael suggests they continue the affair while her husband is away for 2 months, but Sarah prefers to stay friends and not be intimate again. That evening, they have dinner at a diner, and Sarah praises the burger as the best she's ever had. When she returns home, she finds another poem from Michael on her fax machine. Over the weekend, on the way to Robin's ordination, Sarah asks Michael about his writing. He jokes that the poems are from someone who has a crush on her. Before the ceremony, Michael introduces Sarah to Sally. Afterward, Robin asks the group what they thought of the event. Sarah says it deeply resonated with her struggles, and that more people should see it. Her high praise makes Michael's friends warm up to her. While Sarah's in the restroom, the friends discuss how they like her and how she seems to genuinely care for Michael. Just before she returns, Michael reveals they kissed the previous night. Later, Sarah expresses concern that Michael's friends might think she's naive and shares that she once wanted to be a veterinarian. She then asks why he drives a cab despite being a talented writer. Michael explains that he values his job for the experiences it has given him over the past decade. At her apartment, Sarah answers a call from Felipe. After hearing the affectionate words on the phone, Michael goes to the bathroom to smell her perfume. A few minutes later, Sarah follows Michael to the loft and ends the call. When Michael says he should leave, Sarah asks him to stay, and they share a kiss. Hours later, Michael quietly gets out of bed so he doesn't wake Sarah. He leaves a handwritten poem and a box of chocolates next to her before he goes. The next morning, Sarah calls Michael. He tells her that although he wanted to wake up beside her, he felt uncomfortable and decided to leave in the night. Sarah understands and says she called to let him know she misses him. Later, Sally and Robin ask Michael about what happened last night, but he doesn't want to discuss it, especially with Sally's mother present. That evening, Sarah and Michael spend time at his apartment and order food from various restaurants. They eagerly eat the food on the living room floor. Sarah offers to pay for her share, but Michael insists he will cover everything on their dates. When he asks how much she makes in a day, she says $250,000. Michael jokes that she makes just a little more than he does. After dinner, Michael asks if she kept the receipts from their orders. When Sarah asks why, he jokes that they could use them to counter tabloid claims about her having an eating disorder, making her laugh. Sarah then mentions she has to go to Spain the next day to see her husband, and will be alone in Barcelona for the weekend, before meeting Philippe in Madrid. Michael says he will miss her, and she reassures him she'll only be gone for a week. When Michael asks if she'll stay the night, she hesitates, saying that doing so would make everything feel too real. The next day, Michael and Sally cheer for Robin as she receives her diploma. When they invite him to lunch, he declines, saying he needs to work more now that Sarah is in Spain. Meanwhile, in her hotel room, Sarah finds a single rose hanging on the doorknob. When Sarah enters her room, she is astonished to find 1,000 roses scattered everywhere. The maid explains they were flown in from the Canary Islands because there weren't enough roses in Barcelona. Sarah leaves Michael a voicemail, praising him for his passion and expressing regret that he can't see the roses. The next day in Madrid, Philippe mentions reading about the roses and questions if they are related to Sarah's unhappiness. Sarah dismisses the news as false and insists she loves the flowers. Philippe accuses her of loving someone else, and she responds by questioning him. He admits to loving 2 other women over the past year and says she no longer loves him. Sarah expresses frustration with their superficial life and longs for something simpler. Philippe suggests a vacation to Bali, but Sarah, unsure of what she wants, is frustrated. Philippe says he wants her with him forever and agrees to give her space. A few days later, Michael leaves a gift at Sarah's apartment, which she finds when she returns to New York. The gift contains chocolates and handwritten notes. Sarah reads the poems in the bath and leaves Michael a message wanting to see him. Michael visits her apartment, admits he missed her, and they spend the day together. At dinner, Michael recognizes the manager as an old college friend and says he's a cab driver, not a writer. Sarah loses interest in the restaurant and suggests another place. In the cab, she tells Michael she knows he doesn't like the trendy spots she chooses, but admits she doesn't always want to eat Chinese food on his floor. She questions why he pretends to be a writer, and Michael feels the novelty of their relationship is fading. Sarah says he doesn't understand her life, and Michael argues their feelings are real, accusing her of not handling it. Eventually, Michael confesses that he wrote a best-selling book called The Blameless 10 years ago. He explains that he used to travel the world and meet famous people, but didn't like that lifestyle. So he took his money, returned to New York, and became a cab driver. Sarah feels this revelation doesn't excuse him from hiding such an important part of his life, and calls him selfish. Later, Michael apologizes, and they reconcile. They go to his place, kiss, and spend the night together. The next morning, Michael wakes up to find Sarah gone. Meanwhile, Sarah hears the phone ringing, but ignores it as she rushes to pack for a long trip. Michael hurries to the airport, but realizes Sarah is already on a flight to Paris. When Sarah arrives in her husband's hotel room, they kiss, suggesting they are reconciling. That evening, Michael, who caught the next flight to Paris, sees Sarah and her husband leaving a restaurant surrounded by paparazzi. When Sarah sees Michael, she silently pleads with him to leave her alone. Heartbroken, Michael breaks down in the street while Sarah, in the car, wipes away her tears. The next day, Sarah finds a gift on the table in their hotel room. Inside is Michael's book and a final poem expressing his love for her. Deciding to make a change, Michael quits being a cab driver and returns to writing full-time.
Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell icon, and stay connected with us.